You know how difficult it can seem to trust God sometimes, right? Like you really want to, you know you should, but you just can't seem to find the faith to believe for that thing you really want. Why does this happen to us? Why is it such a struggle sometimes to believe God or to just take Him at His word? You need to realize that faith is based on a person. It is not an indefinable feeling or emotion that just takes hold of us randomly. Neither is it philosophy or meditation or just affirmations. All those things could be ways through which we manifest our faith, but I need you to understand that faith is, first of all, trust in Jesus. It is trust in a person. It is trust in God. Our faith is trust in the person of God and all that He says He is. Why is this relevant for us to know? Because many times we struggle to have faith because we are not totally convinced of the goodness of God or some aspect of His character. Our faith is based upon our trust in God. Our trust in the fact that He cannot change. Our trust in the fact that He is who He says He is. Our trust in the fact that if He said it, He will do it. Many times we can't fathom this level of integrity. Neither can we understand how good God can be, and that He can be so good as to make us such promises that we know we do not deserve. And somewhere inside us, we are afraid to hope because we are not used to this. This doesn't make any kind of logical human sense. How can God tell me to ask of the nations and He will give them to me? He must not have meant it that way. Who am I that He should say, if I ask Him anything at all, He will give it to me? Does He even know that I can abuse that kind of blank check offer? How can it really be that I'm always accepted by God? I just told a lie. How can you say I'm still righteous? I got drunk yesterday. How can you say I'm still a saint? We try to rationalize the word of God to fit with what we expect of men. And we try to place God in the same box as men and have the same expectations that we should have of men. We understand men because we are men too. We know that to get something, you've got to put in something. So we are confused when God says all you have to do is ask. I'm waiting to be kind to you. It's my desire to be kind to you. It is difficult to believe when God promises us things that seem too good to be true. Today, I'd like to show you how you can grow your faith by getting to know God in person more. Firstly, it is important to realize that you already have faith. You do not have to pray to God to have faith. Your faith might be little and you may need to grow it. Or you may not even be using it at all at the moment. Or your faith might be perishing due to ignorance of what the word says. But the one thing that is unchanging is that you already have faith right now. Whether you feel like it or not, I know this because Paul tells us in the book of Romans, the 12th chapter, the 3rd verse, that every man has been given a measure of faith. For I say through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God has dealt to every man the measure of faith. So the problem is not that you do not have faith, but rather, how do you exercise your faith? The Bible shows us something very interesting in Hebrews 11 chapter 11 verse. It says, by faith Sarah, even though she was barren and beyond the proper age, was enabled to conceive a child because she considered him faithful who had promised. This is so important. God is telling us here that the reason Sarah was able to have faith in God to give her a child at 90 was not because she just had an ability to believe for crazy things. Can you imagine how many times people must have called her crazy? How many times even she could have thought she was losing her mind? But the Bible tells us that the reason why she was able to believe God and have faith in his word, in what he had said, was because she considered him faithful. The King James Version actually says she judged him faithful. She looked at God and judged all she knew of his character, all she knew of his capability, of his power, and of his personality. All she knew of him from her past encounters. And her conclusion was that he was faithful enough to keep his word. If he had promised, he would be faithful enough to do it. Her faith was based on what she judged the character of her God to be. Do you really believe God is faithful? Do you really believe he is good? What aspect of his character have you been doubting? Do you know that God is willing to bless you? Are you convinced that he is able to do whatever you ask? Are you convinced that there is nothing too hard for him to do? That he has the ability to meet all your needs? Do you understand that God is ready to bless you right now? And that many times we are the ones who aren't ready? He will not be more ready to bless you next year than he will today, because he is unchanging. You may not be ready to believe him yet, or you may not be ready to receive what he has to give. You may lack the capacity right now, but God is waiting, like we saw, to lavish you with his loving kindness. He is waiting to show you the exceeding greatness of his power towards you. Trust that he is who he says he is. Take your eyes off the magnitude of the situation or problem and fix them on him instead. You'll begin to see him stretch his hand over that situation and show his power in his life. May your faith prove to be based on the person of God himself. God bless you.